And you're stationed in the Philippines, right? I'm just kidding.
No, not this time. Not this time.
No, every time I see a live video, it's usually from the Philippines these days on YouTube.
Really? No, no, there's you gotta spread your wings. Yeah, there's
yes. Okay. So hello everyone on this beautiful Saturday, still a little chilly, waiting for real summer to show up. But this is attorney Robyn McCoy and attorney Tracey Martin, and we have a special guest, ED SARPOLUS. And this is Politico Coffee with Robyn and Tracey. And I have today, I have my sister friends mug. Shout out to my sister friends, Marcia and Joan, and all my other sister friends, and Tracey. So that's what I have. And I have spring water this morning. And Tracey and Ed, what about you?
Basically, I'm drinking a fresh lemon with some ginger and mint.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, that sounds very yummy.
Sounds good, yeah.
Yeah, I like the sound of that. And then show us your mug.
Okay. It's a nice blue one. It's a porcelain 20-ouncer. So I can put it in the microwave if I don't have time to perk the water with the teas and all that kind of stuff. So.
Okay,
that's a nice blue mug. You're not sending out any hidden messages by the selection of the color of that mug, are you, this morning? Or
but the reason I'm wearing the blue, I point the blue because generally I tend to blush when I have two ladies talking to me. So.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Well, I'm in keeping with the blue theme with my mug anyway. I have brought my peace mug, and yeah, it's got a lipstick stain on the front. Sorry about that, but
I got a little bit on mine.
Well, yeah, the bottom line, I see your blue mug there with the peace sign. I'm thinking about Hair in the late 70s, the stage show and all that kind of stuff. So.
I love that show, Aquarius. I play that song often. I was born in the 70s, so that's one of my
jams. The Aquarius, yes. I remember playing that in marching band. It's up and down the football field.
Interesting. Well, I brought it today because, I'm wishing everybody peace. There's so much hyper partisanship going on right now, in DC. Everyone's wondering if Liz Cheney is officially going to lose her leadership position, and the whole 9 yards. And Trump got, Facebook upheld the ban of Trump. So there's just so much happening. But today our focus is on our guest, who's bringing some interesting topics, and I have the pleasure. I'm Tracey Martin, of introducing ED SARPOLUS, who is the founder and executive director of Target-Insyght, which is recognized as one of Michigan's most notable polling firms. Ed himself is a noted authority when it comes to polling. He is recognized as a top analyst and strategist, and he's a fixture in the political, business, and media circles around the state as a strategist, entrepreneurial thinker, and deal maker who has had significant success creating and putting into action strategies to influence legislation, political action, and public policy discussions in Michigan and throughout the United States and internationally. I bet you didn't know that. Plus, he's got game with 20 plus years of experience in market research and issue advocacy on a range of topics, including corporate competitiveness, education, healthcare. But today, based on Ed's latest survey, we turn to the conversation of local reparations over cups of political coffee. Welcome, Ed. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I leave it at 20 years. I leave it at 20 years to keep me young, because I started actually in 1972 as a freshman in college. So it's been a while. Wow. I didn't ask it.
I'm going to take the plus sign off of there then. Okay, well, thank you for joining us and taking, your precious time out on a Saturday afternoon to talk about, some hot issues. Yes, this episode was advertised as being about reparations and redistricting, but something really momentous happened on the Michigan landscape with this big announcement about, well, actually it was a leak. And it's, I think Charlie LaDuff, somebody who I know from Fox 2 and other things, he got the big scoop when he announced that James Craig, who is the current Detroit police chief of the Detroit Police Department, is going to retire. He's going to step down, and he is rumored to be running for governor. And as a Republican, no doubt. I mean, Ed, what is your take on this?
Well, running as a Republican does not surprise me. Okay.
Okay. Why not?
basically,
surprised a lot of us. Okay. It's a lot
well, yeah,
It
well,
didn't surprise me.
well, first of all, people at his level of success and politics, if you look at his background, the way he dresses, who he talks to and hangs out, you noted the sense of conservatism, okay, very sharp, and he made himself very comfortable in those different things. He was very involved in, business people respected him in Metro Detroit area. So it's not surprised me. The question is why now? Okay, to me was the timing of it, not the fact that he's coming out as a Republican. And I look at the fact is that I know back when he first came on board as chief of police of Detroit, there was numerous talks or rumors about times about him running for mayor of Detroit if Duggan would step down. That didn't happen. Okay. There was talk about giving him a run for congressional race. That didn't happen. There was talk about all these races. He's finding at the fact there's no room to grow in the Democratic Party if he wanted to run as a Democrat.
Right.
And there's the politics are gone, and he's conservative enough. And typically, people in the police force tend to be more conservative. That doesn't mean it's bad; is they're more conservative. And he thinks he has some issues to talk about because if you look at the issues, what's happening in the presidential race, and now the fact is, what can he run on? He can run on the fact is that he's tired of Democrats taking money from police. They want to, change that. He's going to have to go with his issue is going to be the fact he's going to come out anti-union. He's going to come out against minimum wage. He's going to come out against healthcare for a Black community. What's he going to talk about? The only thing he can do, he's going to have to be anti-everything. So the question is, what is his issues going to be if he does run, other than the fact that he won't defund the police and he's got to decide, is he pro-Trump or anti-Trump? So his problem.
Right, but Ed, I've got to jump in there. Republicans aren't anti-everything. I mean, for example, Republicans are pro-gun. It's an issue that we know that Chief Craig is staunchly for, and Republicans are for free speech and the First Amendment, and they're for better economy. And
well, how does that fit into someone? What I'm saying is, in order to win Detroit, the average African-American person is concerned about employment and jobs and healthcare. I agree with you on the amendment.
Yes, but running for governor is a statewide office. So it's not just about Detroit. And does Detroit still have that mojo when it comes to the gubernatorial race?
Yes, it does.
Oh, yes, I mean, you can ask our Virgie. Our Virgie will tell you that if you're running for governor of Michigan, you need Detroit. You need Detroit. You need the Black vote.
Yes, but Robyn, Ed is the pollster. So
let me explain something. Let me put it this way here. There is a good portion, at least 20 to 30% of the Republicans that won't vote for a Black. They just won't. Okay, they just won't vote for a Black candidate. So the question is going to be, where does he make that up? John James tried to make it up himself. He did very well, a Black outside the city of Detroit in Wayne County. He did very well. I'm not saying that Blacks don't vote for Republicans.
I mean, John James came within 2 percentage points of beating Gary Peters.
That's right. The only reason Gary Peters won because Biden came to see. Gary Peters ran the most terrible race. You and I talked about that.
Yes.
He was invisible for 6 years. He was invisible. There was no bringing home the bacon conversation. I don't see him in Detroit now. I don't see any of the senators or congressmen in Detroit. No one talking to them. And he didn't run a good campaign. And
so you don't feel that the Peters is making efforts? I mean, I know he does have African-American staff and he has done some outreach. You don't think he's done
No, because let me put it this way here. When you poll in the Detroit community, during the middle of his race, 40% of Blacks still didn't know who he was, okay?
Gary Peters?
Yes.
40% didn't know who Gary Peters was.
No, but the point being is Malkshar was higher than that. The point being is that where do you see him on a regular basis in the city or in the Black community? Where do you see him on television, Detroit television? Nowhere. Where do you see him at events? Nowhere. Okay. That's been the reason why Democrats have struggled recently in the States, because there is doesn't mean you have to live in Detroit, but you have to spend on time. And Detroit goes back, you have to earn the right to run in the city and you have to earn your vote. And they were taken for granted. So bottom line, for 6 years, that's what happened.
So this is interesting to me. I heard a pundit, a so-called pundit, I won't say who it is, but say that, the individual compared James Craig to William Lucas, who ran for governor. We've never had a Black governor in the state of Michigan. And, Bill Lucas ran as a Republican. Is very conservative from a law enforcement background.
Yes, I remember him.
I just don't think that Craig, you can compare the two other than their law enforcement parallels, because James Craig has a hell of sorry to the estate of Bill Lucas, but James Craig has a hell of a lot of charisma. They don't call him Hollywood Craig for nothing. I mean, how would you, compare those two candidates when it comes to a gubernatorial run?
Well, I would say from charisma side, I would say James Craig has a much bigger persona and charisma. I agree with that. Okay. Where Bill Lucas's came from is Bill Lucas had earned his stripes in the business community, in the white community, and the Republican community over the years. Because I dealt with him back in my younger years. Okay, and he was very involved, very successful. He became the Republican version of Dick Austin. Okay, but the problem was, Dick was, everybody loved Dick Austin. He was well respected for his jobs. Okay, Lucas was building that. His difficulty is some people lose their identity when they switch parties or try to be something that they're not. Okay, you have to decide what are your issues. Because Bill Lucas, I usually work with him. He was the more moderate Democrat. He wasn't a liberal Democrat. But the point being, when you begin switching to go after Republican primary votes, you lose your identity. Okay, and so when Jim Blanchard beat him, because the fact is that Bill Lucas couldn't decide who he was.
Well, but I think you don't think that James Craig, like I know I do programming on what to do and stop by the police, and I've gone to I went to an event with James Craig with the children, and he's very charismatic, very engaging. And I will say this, I have friends in the Detroit Police Department and in the Wayne County Sheriff's Department. They say that James Craig is a better boss, that he cares about his employees. He has compared. They were talking about the. I don't want to talk about the late sheriff, but they said that that James Craig cares about his employees and his staff, and that makes a difference.
It does.
Does he have to do? I know you were talking about things that he's going to have to make decisions on. Does he have to go that far? Can he just be a moderate Republican and still be caring about Black issues and defund the police and Black health care? And can he still do that as a moderate? Isn't there? I mean. Because not everybody has to be a conservative Trumpster.
Well, remember the fact, it's how does he get through the primary unless the Republicans clear out the field for him? It's not an issue what he can do in the general. My initial concern, can he get through the primary? Okay. I agree that you have to run, as Nixon said it best, you run to the right in primary, you run to the left for Republican middle, and when you're in the general.
Okay.
He's going to James Craig is going to have to do the same. For example, is that if I were Governor Whitmer right now, I would want to have a primary coming for forced activity in Detroit. So voters have to decide, because here's something else Craig has to worry about. Redistricting. I know you didn't want to bring in redistricting right away. Every time there's redistricting, their turnout in Detroit almost doubles, okay, from the previous elections. Why?
Also, it does get people into the process.
Right, because they want to be sure who the new state rep is, who's the state senator is going to be, who the new judge is going to be. So the point being is, so if Democrats work hard to saying, I need you, who do you want for your state rep and state senate? Okay, remember, they're going to maybe be voting straight party, like they always do.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
And so the question is,
to do away with that.
So the question is how does Craig run in the primary? Okay, because if he doesn't take on the Trump issues in the primary, he runs for the moderate, which is I think he's great in the general. I think he could cause Whitmer a lot of problems. The problem is, what does he do in the primary season, especially when there's going to be a high turnout to be sure for example, African Americans will be pushing hard to save their Senate seats because they may lose a Senate seat. They're going to save their House seats. Okay, they're going to be a battle for congressional races. The Democrats will be working that city like crazy to maintain.
Wait a minute. Are you saying that Chief Craig couldn't make it out of a Republican primary? I mean, look at this field. You've got a bunch of B-listers.
Well,
Ronald McDaniel is like the biggest name who hasn't committed to a run for governor. Candace Miller's not running. So John James, he's got his political action committee. And I get, with this news of Craig, who knows what John James is going to do now. So
I'm saying is you're making the intelligent appreciation is, but the people on the far right are not going to give up a chance to run and get their person in office for their position.
He could be the person. I mean, he's already reached out to Doug Ducey, who's the head of the Republican Governors Association.
Okay, but what does that mean? What does that mean to the people? What does it mean to the conservative right? Or anti this, all that kind of stuff. It's not. Remember, in the end, you're going to have to decide on the Trump issues in the primary, unless Trump goes away between now and the primary of next year.
I just think that you are making too much of an issue about Trump being some sort
It's the
of
issues.
liability
No,
because
it's the issues. It's the issues. If I was the Democrats right now, I would be forcing to force him to start taking positions on issues. Okay.
Now that would be interesting. Yes.
Well, because remember what the trick to beating Craig is to define him before the primary season even starts. So what's going to have happened is the fact, and I've done this the fact, the Republicans may help the Democrat win, or the Democrats will help the Republican win in their own primary. Okay. And as a consultant, the fact that parties say, hey, can you help me? For example, Congressman Schwartz, I moved 40% of Democrats on congressionals to vote in the Republican primary because Schwartz was the person people who were in education wanted Schwartz, the Republican. So the point being is, what's going to happen? The question is going to be the fact is that he's going to have to get support. Okay, because the point being is the fact is that what I'm saying is that if he can't appeal to all the outstate Republicans, and he's counting on Detroit to help them close the door, then where does he take? What positions does he take? Does he go after the vote in Detroit and their issues, or the outstate issues in the primary?
Well, Ed, I will say this. I think that you don't take into account that there are many Black folk who love law and order, particularly in Detroit. They love Craig and what he's done with the police department. I mean, I myself take issue with his stance on facial recognition surveillance, as does Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. And, they've been chopping it up in the media lately. But they love law and order. And, he has a lot of crossover appeal.
Oh, I agree with you on the law and order thing. But I'm saying that the fact is, in the end, what positions he's going to take that's going to appeal to the person who's looking for a job, who's looking for help in healthcare, where he's going to help with education, where is he going to take those positions? Law and order is only one piece of the board. Every poll I do in Detroit, okay, the issues are becoming more personal than they are crime and drugs, okay? It's more about them and their family. 40% of the people in Detroit live below poverty, okay? 40% of business in Detroit closed that were Black, okay?
Right.
So the question is, when I was doing a lot of work in Detroit, and people says, well, Detroit's the center of, you can't vote for this candidate, you can't vote for this because there's so much crime going on. And Detroit says, well, there's already crime here. Getting this isn't going to change it. So the question is, I agree with you I'm not trying to dispute what you're saying is, my job is as devil's advocate. Okay, what if I were consulting James Craig right now? What would I be doing? Okay, I'd be looking how the Democrats, how would I define myself? They would force him to define himself way to the right now. Okay. Okay. The question is that he'd have to work with Republicans to clear the field. Okay, because if he has a tough fight, then the fact he's going to have to take stances that he does not want to take until the general. Okay.
Interesting.
That's where I'm coming from. I think he's great. I think he should run. I think he's a good challenge. I'm trying to look at the fact is, okay, what does he need to do between now and then?
And I'm curious, what did you think about? I know that there's been tension with Chief Craig and Kim Worthy about. Chief Craig is basically like, we're arresting people, locking them up. But then with the pandemic, Kim Worthy and the Chief Judge Kinney, they've had to release people so they don't get COVID. And so there's been concerns about Chief Craig is like, I'm locking folks up and then you guys are letting them out and it could spark an increase of crime. So what are your thoughts about that?
Well, Craig he's on both sides of the issue. And the other times he went after Kim Worthy for being too tough. If you as attorneys, you know that for a time Kim Worthy is really strong at things. So Kimberly was that Craig was say back off. So that's a give and take on that issue. Okay. But on the same token, you start bringing. I agree with you on the issue, but the same token, one of the biggest fears in Detroit right now is amongst people. I can't get a job because I have all these felonies on my record. Right. You got the clean slate program right now. You have a candidate running in the 6th council district, running on the fact that he succeeded getting through the Detroit's clean slate program. Now he's helping others get clean up their record and become he's got a family and kids. Okay.
Are you talking about Hector Santiago?
Yes, I am.
We have just interviewed Hector.
Yeah, we just interviewed Hector. Yeah, and I do expungements. I'm actually working with people. I represent people who are getting their records. Our friend Judge Thomas. That's how.
Well, I've helped sponsor some 30 events for her over the years. Through my nonprofits. What I'm saying is, Santiago is something that I think is an example of what people are saying. The fact, I learned my lesson, and I have 2 kids, and I've got a family. I am home. Okay,
right.
So what I'm looking at the fact,
relatable. He's really relatable, And he strikes me anyway as a person who knows how to get things done. For example, when we interviewed him, he was actually out on a campaign trail.
He took us on a campaign trail with him. Yeah.
Door knocking.
So you think I don't know anything about Detroit then?
Oh no, you know everything about Detroit. Nobody ever said that. But let
I'm
me
just
ask
kidding you because I bring him up because
I'm a serious one. But let me ask you something about Hector Santiago, because this really interests me. That District 6 race, council member Raquel Castaneda Lopez.
Yeah, you got David Sanchez and Santiago Romano Garcia.
You got the two Santiagos in that race. Gabriela Romero Santiago, who
but Romano, right. She puts her last name Romano last to separate herself.
Romero. It's
Romero, whatever it is.
Right.
We'd have to Google. I'll Google. We interviewed Sanchez and Santiago.
No, it is Romero. I know it is. But you have two Santiagos in the race. Yes, one is a woman, one is a man. Is that going to confuse the voters in that particular district at all?
Well, it can. The benefit for her is the fact that she's the only woman on the ballot.
Oh, yes, right.
Okay,
yeah,
so dividing the male vote. And the other question I would say that right now, David Sanchez is going to be the beneficiary of, people maybe raising money for him. The question is where does the machine in that district come from? Does Gabriela get money from Rashida? Does she get it from Stephanie Chang's group? Where does she get her money? Because right now, most council candidates at most raise 20,000, 30 okay?
That's it for a city council race in Detroit?
Yeah, and Janice Woodbury's never raised more than 60,000 for a whole citywide campaign.
Wow.
Okay, what I'm saying is the question is going to be is who's going to have the best name recognition, okay? And then and basically who's going to get their message out? Because what's interesting in that 6th district, the fact is you have a very strong Hispanic community there, okay? You also have a very strong Black group there. You also have a strong Hungarian group there, okay? You have a large,
and Yemeni and
Yemeni, yes. And you have a very religious group going into Ecorse and River Rouge, okay? So the question is that, because one thing, notice all the candidates, because they're coming from Hispanic backgrounds, okay? Where does this Hispanic Chamber of Commerce come down?
Right.
Because they're very strong in that area. They have some beautiful health centers. They've got a lot of things going, and so the question is where can Miss Lopez? What's she going to be able to do for Gabriela?
Yeah, and I looked it up for the audience. It's Gabriela Santiago -Romero.
Romero, that's what I said. Yes.
Yeah, Romero. And we did interview. You said
Romano.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking cheese.
Well, we did interview Sanchez and we interviewed Hector Santiago. I guess we have more folks to interview from what you guys are saying. For that
wasn't there a write-in too? Possibly another woman write-in in that district?
I heard something about that, but that is such a hot race. But, I do think that there was some strategy going on there between the council member Lopez and her endorsee, Gabriela, because, remember she waited to the very last minute to announce that she wasn't seeking re-election.
Yes.
I thought that was to serve Gabriela, her endorsee.
She was, but the problem of the fact she released too early back in January about her hint that she wasn't going to be running.
Yeah.
Right. She was playing it right, but she leaked it too soon. Okay.
Yeah.
Because Sanchez and the other people were too ready, to get moving on this. Okay, and so that'll be the key thing.
Well, Ed, what do you think the governor should do? I know they've been talking about this in the news. I'm sure you've heard about her taking this trip to see her dad, and they're trying to say some stuff about it was a personal trip. There are businessmen to pay for it. But for me, I don't hide this. I'm pro Gretch, big Gretch. She's been holding it down. She's been like the mama, making sure people live, that they don't die. But what are your thoughts on that situation for the governor? As far as public relations, like because her father was, my understanding, her father was sick.
Well, yeah, we got to remember Gretchen Whitmer's success is based because of her father, because of her wealth.
Dick
Whitmer from Blue Cross Blue Shield. Without her dad, she pretty much has not had a hard race for at all in her political career. I don't think Bill Schuette is the toughest candidate the Republicans could have put against her. Okay.
Right.
And so the point being, now the other note of the fact, John Nagler got into this problem, Snyder got into this problem, Blanchard got into this problem. This corporate jets, the helicopter stuff, it's always been a problem. I've worked for some of the peepers and speakers, and they had a military helicopter come to their place and was paid by a lobbyist. So her problem is her PR machine didn't know how to address this issue.
Right.
That what she should have done. My father's probably dead. I need to apologize to my public, my voters. I don't want to get this personally because my job is governor, but the fact that I'm going to go see my dad and just do it right up front. Be upfront. That's poor PR. Just go ahead and tell them what you got to do.
Right. Don't hide it, because a lot of people could relate to that. Going to see their loved one, their dad or their mom who might be on their deathbed.
Yeah, it's getting the sympathy of it. Okay. I mean, the point being is the fact is that's her PR handlers. That's her office handlers not helping her. She's got all these expensive friends, corporate people working with her. In fact, where's the PR on this? Because in fact,
make them work, Big Gretch, make them work. Yeah, I agree with you that was messed up. But I got a burning question about this Chief Craig announcement. This thing has totally turned into a snowball, because as I understand it, Craig's going to have a press conference on Monday to make a formal announcement. He hasn't, from what I understand, talk with Mayor Duggan about this. Do you think that this makes Mike Duggan look bad for his own race this year? You've got a police chief who you appointed is, going to be seeking the governorship and is running as a Republican and challenging your Democratic colleague.
Tell it, because he's going to need Governor Whitmer's support. So tell it, Tracey. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ed.
Here's where I'm going on this fact is that this is a two-edged sword. If Duggan's correct, obviously, until he's officially gone, he's going to, thank the chief for his years there. And at the end, after he's gone, then you go after all. I'm so glad we got to get a new person. We got to get things working again. These are the problems I've been seeing. He can take on that issue now because he can start bashing that department and the people that were running it. Okay, once
change the narrative.
He can change the narrative really quick. And remember, if he wants to help Gretchen Whitmer, that's the best thing Duggan could do. Okay. After he says all the nice things, look at McConnell said nice things about Biden, but as soon as everything got going, everything changed. Duggan can do all the niceties with Sheriff Craig, and then all of a sudden it can change overnight. And all of a sudden, Chief's going to have, remember, once Chief's gone, unless he's got the money, he's going to have to find somebody like Trump. Where's your bully pulpit? Because now you're no longer the chief. Okay, and then if Kim Worthy likes Gretchen, then Kim Worthy can go after all the problems she had with Chief Craig.
And she does like Gretchen. Okay, she's like with the Gretchen.
I know that. Okay, yes, I helped her out. Our team helped her out get through this last primary season because of the fact of all the soft money coming in to take her out. But the point being, so I know who her level. All I'm saying is this: if he asked, everybody's going to play nice until Chief Craig is gone. Okay, then after that, it's fair game. Okay,
he's gonna be lit up. He's gonna get lit. He's gonna get lit up.
And if you ever want to see a woman with the temper, you just think Kim Worthy. She's got the best temper in the world, man. If she's going after you, she's going after you. Okay.
But Ed, I think a continuing foil for Chief Craig will be Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. She's a member of the squad. She's got national attention, international attention. And these two keep chopping it up and going back and forth on these different issues. He's going to continue to do that, because I heard that he was thinking about challenging Rashida Tlaib, for that congressional seat. Now he's, headed on the gubernatorial track.
Because he realized from polling that he couldn't win in that seat. Okay. I mean, we've tested him before. He was not going to be there. The issue is going to be the fact this allows Duggan to see we're going to get in. Look at Duggan to sway this whole thing. Duggan can get Gretchen effect. We're here to protect the police force. Gretchen can already get in and saying, we're going to be sure we're protecting the police force. Remember, Bill Schuette pretend he owned the city and crime and everything. This gives Gretchen and Duggan a time to opportunity to secure their future in the city on strong and protecting the police and crime and things in the city.
Yeah, if they play their cards right. But that remains to be seen. So wow.
Because you got to remember, remember about almost 10 years ago, there was an FBI report in the city showing the fact that the city needs to double its police force. Okay, that was never publicly released. So the fact there's a lot of things that Duggan could talk about. Gretchen can talk about, and they could take advantage of that between now and the Republican primary to take away the issue from Chief Craig. Because remember, unless people side with Rashida, it's a non-issue.
Yeah, well, it's great for headlines. It keeps his name out there. And frankly, I was not shocked at all to hear that Chief Craig was going to be running for governor and as a Republican, because I've got a lot of Republican friends, and my phone was blowing up yesterday, actually a couple days ago, and but it wasn't confirmed. And this is where I'm going with this. Chief Craig had been on Tucker Carlson's show on the Fox News channel all these times talking about, the issues. And so I took that as a signal that, hey, they call him Hollywood Craig. He's in the headlines, but this is on a different level. He's going to make an announcement about a political run. He's tired of being in Mayor Duggan's shadow, and he wants to spread his wings. He's been the police chief in Detroit for 8 years now. And like you said earlier, this is a moment,
It's a moment. And here's something else that you were not aware of the fact. I've had a chance to talk to a lot of the people running at the top of the city ticket, that large city council, city clerk, and mayor's office, because they're seeking help on the race and stuff like that.
Right.
And all of them have been approached by Republicans offering them money to run. So I don't believe that it's unnatural to believe that over the last several years that there hasn't been entrees from the Republicans to Chief Craig. You got to remember the Michigan Chronicle was a big help to the John Engler years. Okay, John Engler gave millions of dollars to the Michigan Chronicle.
John Engler, did
because remember he gave him money, millions of dollars for settlements. Yeah, remember that? All of a sudden, how did that paper get so much? All I'm saying is
Republican newspaper endorsing Republicans.
Because black business people that are Republican in the city have probably been quietly moving Craig along off the record, encouraging him. Making them feel high and mighty, fluffy. Because if they're done with John James, and how do they casually move John James out of the picture? They got to find somebody new. So all of a sudden they start grooming. Remember, with Congressman Schwartz, we groomed him, the team of almost for 20 years before we got him to run for Congress. Okay, so I got to believe that that the same thing that happened with Craig. Since he's become chief, and once they saw that he's a solid person, he's been being groomed by the other side. He's been groomed by Republicans. They've been grooming him. Okay, the same thing with Warren Evans. Okay, most of his money for his first race was from Republicans. Okay,
wow.
So there's always this grooming that's going on. So we keep forgetting. Chief Craig didn't wake up one day and say, "I'm now a Republican and I want to run." No. It's been grooming. It's been nurtured.
Right.
It might be in his nature, but he's been nurtured. Okay?
Well, this brings to mind something else. You talk of grooming, and I don't know if you said this offline or online about John James could be done politically, which I hope is not the case, because I admit I'm an admirer of John James.
Well, I like it. The question is going to be is this: can he swallow his ego and take a step back and restart at something that less than governor or U.S. senator if he can't make it at those two top posts? Does he run for county exec?
What about John James being on the ticket with James Craig? Is that not enough of diversity on the ticket? Could two black men?
They would need a woman.
Could two black men?
Well, Robyn, you could run with them. There you go.
I am for Big Gretch, okay? So it don't even look. My dad's an independent, but I am a Democrat, okay? I'm a card-carrying Dem, okay?
Well, so what? You wouldn't have to do much as lieutenant governor. You could just look, you can just look smart and do your work and go home.
Yeah, I've been working since I was 14 years old, so that's not even. I know you're joking.
Looking smart. She is smart,
I know. I'm just kidding her.
That discussion. But answer my question, please. Is it, can that not happen with two black?
Well, my concern with there is a case we would be testing how far is Michigan come in being colorblind. Okay, that's my fear. It's not an issue of running two people running. Okay, the question is colorblind. Even John Engler wouldn't write it other than posthumous. He already switched to have a woman on the ticket. Okay, so the question is that. Who do you run? Okay. Now, are there some black women judges and other people in position? Yes, there are. Okay. I know Republicans are trying to encourage Linda T. Tarver to run for Secretary of State next year. Okay.
Dr. Tarver is Secretary of State to challenge Jocelyn Benson. Very interesting.
Okay.
I will just leave it at that.
Yes. Well, I used to work with her. She used to be a client of mine, so I know her very well. Okay. And
I know she was a client of yours. I know that.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that I would say that two black people. The question is going to be: Are we more colorblind now? Okay, that's the question.
It wouldn't, yeah, not the Michigan we're looking at. We had Trump support. They tried to kidnap the governor. No, it's not, that's not gonna work.
And then the other thing, the fact is then the women's movement alone, okay, we've got this balance of why now we're going back to two men in office, okay? So the question is going to be, it's going to have, if it's two men, it's going to probably, if they're African American, I have no problem with that issue. The question would be, he probably got to pick a black woman if he wants to have two blacks at the top of the ticket.
Right.
Okay, but more ideally though, it most likely would be a woman. What names come to mind? And probably a white woman.
Yeah. Now the problem, remember, Bill Lucas made a mistake with picking a short white woman to be his lieutenant governor, Mrs. Engler, the first Mrs. Engler.
Who was that? I don't recall.
Colleen Engler.
That's right.
Okay, what Democrats use very effectively is Bill Lucas coming out of this limo with Colleen Engler, a black man with a short white woman. That gave the wrong impression, did it not?
Right. So that couldn't fly.
You see where I'm going on this? It's the visual, okay? It's the visualization. How would that look?
It's still about the visual.
It's all about the visual, because if you look back at some of those
when it
ads
comes
and
to
pictures,
race.
Yes, if you see a black man and a white woman, what's the perception?
Right. Well, but we Gretchen and Garland, they were able to get in.
Yes, but that was the last minute.
That's different.
That's different, okay? This is something being planned up front. Okay, there was a big debate who was going to run. Remember, Gretchen was not having troubles. The numbers were polling that she'd probably win out against Bill Schuette. There wasn't that issue. She had a challenger, okay? If she had a very strong challenger, then Garland could be used against her, okay? But because Schuette was not liked very much, okay? So the question is that if you got two strong candidates, then the person of color may have an impact, okay? So if Jeff Craig is very strong and Gretchen's strong, then who the VP lieutenant governor could be very consequential.
Interesting.
Right.
Well,
I know we want to talk about reparations, but before we do the reparations, I wanted to ask Ed, well, we got him here. What do you think about the whole Liz Cheney thing? Like, what are your thoughts?
I think from someone who spent his life consulting on politics, working in politics, I think that she knows that she was going to have to step down. But I think a woman there is a person of principle. She's a very strong background. I think she takes after her dad and respectability. Her future is still strong in the party. She'll grow. She'll move on.
That's what I
don't think she's for a lot. Remember, between her dads and her people that she knows, she's not going to be. Her voice will not be shut out.
Right.
If she doesn't stay in Congress, if I was Biden, I would bring her into administration if he gets another term. I mean, you look for people like that who, because when you look at what she did during the presidential speech last Thursday, okay, here's a person reaching out. What I'm saying is that she already understands politics is business. It's not personal, okay?
Right.
And so the point being is that if she understands she's about business, I could see would be not odd to have like Biden's done with McCain, the daughter, okay,
right,
to point her in a good position, because she's already shown that she knows respect, she can do business, and she can keep it business-wise, not make it personal. And that's what she's been able to do. So I think in long term, she'll be quite successful. I could see her running for president down the road.
I said that last week when Tracey and I were talking about that. I said I would be surprised if she ran for president.
Why? Because she's too short? Because she's too short?
She's way too short, and there's other issues. But interesting, though, before we close out this discussion, and I sorry for the barking dog. That's my German Shepherd, Bella, in the background. I don't know what's going on out there, but
let him speak.
Maybe Bella wants to get in the conversation too.
No, she's too busy barking at somebody, but apologies again. But I do, before we close this discussion out on Craig, there was a poll, and it was in the Detroit News, that said that a majority of likely Michigan voters, 58%, said they approved of Whitmer's job performance. This was a February 3rd poll commissioned by the Detroit News.
Yes,
But the survey found that Whitmer is potentially vulnerable because the plurality, 41%, said they plan to vote for someone else for governor in 22, and with 39% saying they would support Whitmer for re-election, and a crucial 20% said their answer depended on the candidates, and it was a sample of 600 registered voters with a margin of error plus or minus 4%.
Yeah, well, here's the point. I've said this many times over the last year, okay? And I've said it talking with you. Once COVID goes away, what does Gretchen run on?
Right.
Gretchen's key to winning electorate is that some level of COVID is here between now and next year. Because she didn't win on the auto insurance. She didn't win on fixing the roads. She has no major success other than the people who vote that like what she's doing in COVID. So to me, she's got to find another issue outside of COVID to claim her fame. I've been saying this now for over a year, okay?
She has been instrumental in appointing African-American judges to the bench. So to her, I will say that.
I agree with you, but the question is, for the white voter, how does that help me as a...
Yeah, that doesn't help anybody.
That resonates with Black women lawyers in Michigan. I'm gonna just put it out there right there.
I totally agree with you.
I totally agree with you. But people will vote for candidates who can improve their quality of life. Okay, it is about crime. It is about jobs. Being Michigan's top CEO, it's all about the economy. And frankly,
well, look, that's the reason why. Not to interrupt you. That's why Biden jumped vertically from the COVID to jobs. Things like that. He switched to jobs. Yeah. Okay. Gretchen has never jobs. Her only message has been COVID, and she claims some success with the auto insurance, which there was no success. She lost all the Republicans won, and she's got nothing on the roads. So what is her? She's another Governor Granholm with her success plan. What is she?
But she does have juice with Biden, so she does have the potential to tap into his plan for the infrastructure and to get jobs here in Michigan.
And guess what she needs? Then what she has to do? She has to become a band leader and start marching through the state of Michigan, talking like Biden, trying to jump up jobs and guaranteeing jobs. Okay, she seems like she's fenced in. You don't hear much about on the street. It's like she's another Gary Peters. Where are you?
Yeah, it does seem
like you're not visible.
And she does do those press conferences, but you're right. It's mostly about
no. The point being is that with you don't have a lot of social media. You know, the press conferences. She's a governor. Okay, I don't see a lot of ribbon cutting from her. I don't see a lot of her go help the homeless. I don't see, for example, she's not. For those who remember Frank Kelly, he was always cutting ribbons someplace in the state. All his 30+ years. And he was. What is? I don't see him. What's her once a day or once in a week visits at something, how she's solving problem, helping people out, or doing something.
She's on TV on MSNBC. She does the Joy Reid show and CNN and stuff like that.
But that doesn't help you out.
No,
well, that does. That is, I would say, I think that I feel, we could have had another governor during this pandemic, and a lot more of us could have died and sick. I've had relatives that have died and been sick, and I do appreciate what she's done there. Before the pandemic.
What if you got sent to a nursing home and you ended up dead? Now that's an issue that will continue to plague Governor Whitmer.
Well, Republicans
have done for Cuomo.
Well, the Republicans already have a lawyer team already investigated to get stuff on her on the funeral, on the care home.
Right.
They're already spending money. They've already got a law firms they've already hired lawyers, and they're already doing that. Okay. To use that issue,
and frankly, Michigan is still a hot spot when it comes to COVID. So, this whole ballyhoo about, running on, I was the COVID governor. That just doesn't resonate with a lot of people.
Well, she has to get out in the street. She has to be a band leader, okay? Why doesn't she have corporate mayors sitting next with her giving incentives, okay? The point being, you've got Ford Motor Company would help her out. GM would help her out with her employees. You'd have Unilever. She's not using the tools that are given to her to take credit for turning out people going from a no to a yes.
Right.
Okay. And she's not. There's again, who's her PR department? Who is her communications director? Who's her strategist?
Yeah.
Who is? She doesn't have a Dennis Muchmore for Snyder. There's not a Rick Weiner, at least before he left graduate. She had somebody. Previous governors had strategists on their staff. Who's her strategist?
Are you available for higher ed? Are you auditioning right now?
No, I don't know. everybody knows the fact is I just say how I feel, what I see. Okay. I don't do auditioning. Okay. I flunked too many auditions. I'm too short. But
Well, you don't have to do auditions, Ed, because your reputation and your resume speaks for itself. But one last thing before we move on with Craig. This is an observation of mine, James Craig. Hollywood Craig, he's everywhere. He goes on the Fox News channel and makes national headlines, and everybody knows who he is. I myself think he got the moniker Hollywood Craig because of his long time in LA, which I think was significant.
Right.
But at any rate, where I'm going with this is this. For all that we know about James Craig looking real sharp, you know, in his unis, as they call them, I really don't know anything about him personally. I don't know if he's married, if he has children. You know, is he a dad, a grandfather?
Well, you know, he
I don't
reminds
know.
me, he reminds me a little bit of Dennis Archer Sr.
Right,
And
right.
okay, that once you got to know him on the outside of his public life, it wasn't all that perfect. Okay.
Oh,
Well, I just
okay.
know from my friends that work at the Detroit Police Department, they'll hold him up in high respect. They
I
say
know that.
because you don't always have that as with the police chief, where your employees.
Well, that's
think
going to be
that you really care
his
about
plus. What I'm going to say is he'll get like a lot of Republicans get endorsements from the police departments or the police officers. Okay, so he will if he doesn't get it, then the fact that he'll probably not win. But he has earned that respect. I talked about charisma. I'm not denying all the kind of stuff. The question is going to be, this is like the Wizard of Oz. Can you follow the path of the yellow brick road? Okay. And is every brick going to be in place? What's going to hurt him? Okay. Because when we start talking, he's a great. He's not. With my concern, the fact. Okay, we already say he's a great candidate. He's super okay. So the next thing I think is being in politics in my life. What are the things we have to do to take advantage of this opportunity? We got to get off cloud nine, come down to earth, and build a plan. So I'm not poo-pooing his run or his race. I'm trying to say is okay. My point being is as I go forward, the fact, yes, I think it's exciting to see him run. I think he can be a quality candidate. He's done the charisma. He's done everything as a fact. So to me, as a fact, what are the roadblocks? Remember,
Right.
Bill Schuette thought he was going to win outright. Okay. You know, all these people have had, we're going to be this. Okay. All these people, Benny Napoleon, pardon the late sheriff, thought he was going to become the next mayor of the city. Okay. It didn't happen. Okay. Tom Barrow, how many times is he going to run for mayor? Okay. So all these people have
this
great.
Is his what, 5th time in 4 elections?
Yeah, per anniversary. Yeah. Well, the point being, we have a lot of good people, but what does it take to get to the next level? Okay,
Right.
that's the difficulty. I'm not trying to poo-poo him. I'm just saying the fact is that while everybody's on this high, because remember my success in business, the fact is I take my emotions out of it. It's not what I think, what I want. What do I know and what do I see? Because I've been around the block too many times, and the thing is, okay, this is great for Chief Gregg. It's a great thing for an African American, the black person, the chief to move ahead. But what are the roadblocks? I know how the Republican Party treats their candidates. If they're not successful, they eat their young and saying it's up to you now to find your money. Okay, so my concern is, are they using him or are they really behind him? John James has sort of been used. Okay. Where was his coaching to how to handle the Trump issue when he was running originally against?
Wait, whoa. How was John James used?
They didn't coach him on what he was saying and doing early in the race with Trump, how to handle the features, or when there was the impeachment hearings. Okay, they didn't coach him. Okay, there wasn't somebody to tell him how do you handle this situation. There should have been a team of Republicans, PR people saying, looking at who he is as a person, okay, how he's going to be perceived in order to win the general election. Okay, you have to, if you got a good candidate like John James, someone has to be working with him on a day-to-day basis. Here's the issues of the day. Here's how you have to coach the issue. You're not going to change your position, but how do you coach this issue? Every candidate I've worked with is that I would have never let my candidate do what they allowed him to do to get on the stump when those issues were pending. I would have coached with him off the record, how you protect yourself. No one was there doing that.
And you're talking about election cycle 2020?
Yes, I am.
Because I don't, it's true that John James did not win that Senate seat, but he came within 2 percentage points.
That's because of Gary Peters. What I'm saying is, right.
And frankly, there are many Republicans who believe that John James was a true winner because of, well, you know,
I
the
hope
whole
you're not.
business.
Yeah,
So,
I don't agree with that. I think that, I would say this. I mean, I actually, Ed, I share your thoughts. Like, I feel the same way with Sarah Palin, that the way they brought Sarah Palin in, they did not groom her properly. And then they're going to blame everything on her. You're going to bring somebody in, you need to bring them in and train them and make sure that they know the lay of the land. And then you're going to just dump everything on them. That's just.
well, I disagree with both of you. Again, I think that John James did a fantastic
Well,
job.
you're entitled to your
Within,
opinion and belief in it. What I'm
2%,
just saying is I think
2
he
percentage points. You cannot discount that.
yes, but if he was handled properly,
an
yes, but
incumbent senator.
I know, but the point being is there are things that they could have done to help him get through those 2 additional points.
And that would have made the difference to get him over the hump so that he would have been a guarantee to win. That's what you're saying.
Separated himself from Trump, because remember, he never learned how to handle his separation from Trump. He went from 100% Trump for the one race, and then he switched to something else, to close in middling. The point being is you cannot change position. You just have to change how you present your issues. I always tell my candidates, I've worked for right to life people and I run for pro-choice people. I says, never change your position, but you got to learn from, like we talked about this before with Bill Clinton. He never changed his position on abortion. He just told people, says, I'm not pro-abortion, I'm pro-choice. You and I have the same goal. We want to stop women have to make that decision. He didn't say he was against choice. He just says that we have the same goal. Women don't have to make that decision. They didn't give.
It's all about messaging.
I mean, for the audience, Ed, I feel like you're teaching a class. You need to be teaching classes on this, okay?
I've done this before. I've done 5-hour classes with people because to me, when I look at somebody who's good in quality, okay, yes, I pick scabs off everybody because that's my job. Because my job is to find out what's weak in the candidacy to project elections. But John James was not guided through some of these hot issues. Okay. Okay. How did he handle the issues on crime or on issues on healthcare or all these things? They needed to coach him. Because if he learned how to explain the position, the fact that he wouldn't have got boxed in, he could have kept Peters more on the defensive.
Well, we'll see what John James does with his Mission First, People Always Political Action Committee. But now we're going to pivot to an issue that is close to your heart based on a press release that came out on April 20th, 2021, which is with the headline, Majority of Detroit City Voters Support Reparations for Those Harmed by City. So,
your microphone is off. Your microphone got cut off there.
It started to go lower.
Oh, okay. So you came out with a press release on April 20th, 2021 about reparations. And the headline on that press release was Majority of Detroit City Voters Support Reparations for Those Harmed by City. So what's happening with reparations in Detroit? Because this is a different form of reparations. You call it local reparations. What's it about?
Well, what's it about is, well, first of all, it's not about the city taking money that it needs to run the city and giving it to people in the city that have been harmed by the city. It's not about the city giving money. It's not increasing taxes. It's not reducing of services. Basically, it's mimicking what happened in Evanston, Illinois. Okay, Evanston, Illinois is probably the best example how they came about doing this. First of all, the Evanston, Illinois people taught us basically that people of color could come together on a single issue. Okay, and they call it reparations, but it's not the reparations we normally think about. Okay, what the reparation we're talking about here is the fact that no one's going to get a cash payment. Okay, they're not going to get money in their pocket. The purpose here is those people who have been harmed, most likely people of color, which are African Americans or Black people in the city, whether it's because of the Black Bottom, okay, when that community was destroyed, whether it was the destruction by what happened citywide after the riots in '67, whether it was the excise taxes overtaking, or it's the way police have handled the unfair practice of the police over the last number of years. Okay, so they're harmed. Okay. In the poll that we did, 72% even of white people think that the Black community has been severely harmed, extremely harmed by the excess taxes they've been paying or paid from 2010 to 2016. Okay, and the argument back to that is the fact is, well, how can you expect the Black community to improve their neighborhood with the money that they had extra they gave to you in taxes? So the reparation here is the fact, can we come up with a way, or the people supporting this issue, can we come up with a way to help repair the damage done? Okay, the reparation portion of it. Okay, so in Evanston, Illinois, They're looking, I think, raise over probably a 10-year period about $10 million. I think the biggest award is going to be $10,000 to improve something on your home, infrastructure, your neighborhood, that type of thing, to better the community or better yourself through this grant. Okay. In the city, I think there's been some conversation that there may hopefully the same, maybe a 10-year period, maybe $25 million for maybe a grant of no more than $25,000, okay, to do the same thing. Okay, and the purpose here is the fact that it can help everybody. So if a Black person has been harmed because one of the issues we've talked about, if he betters his home in the community, that may help all the homes on the street, whether it's property values or improving the neighborhood. If someone got $25,000, couldn't they help? They could help the whole community with improving their homes in the neighborhood. So this is improvement by taking some benefit. Now, the goal here is the fact, I'm assuming they're looking, considering, remember, you have to get this on the ballot. They form a commission is going to study how about doing this. Okay. The conversation has been, the Evanston model was putting a fee on the sales of cannabis over a short period of time, 10 years, 20 years. Okay.
Okay.
And use that. And that was the money to be used on that. Like Evanston, it has to be to the betterment of the person's structure, their home or themselves or their neighborhoods. It's not a free for all. Here's a cash and go buy a new car. It's none of that. This is about betterment, not buying a new car. Okay. It's
well, so
like
what? I mean, if you have Black U.S. descendants of slavery want to go buy a new car, that's on them. I mean, the bottom line is that
the IRS is not going to let you get the IRS regulation. They're not going to allow you to get a cash gift of $25,000 or $10,000 without taxes or some other things coming in.
Of
problems.
course, you have to pay taxes, but I mean,
this way here, they're not having to pay taxes because this will be a grant program.
Well, what do you say to some people who say, and I'm not knocking this in any way, shape, or form, I am too playing devil's advocate, but what do you say to people who say, well, what you propose is, nothing more than a housing voucher program, and it's not going to help all Black people because all Black people don't, need a house.
Well, if I only have a bottle of water to give water to 10 people, should it mean I not give it to 10 people because I can't give water to all 1,000 people that are going dry?
Excellent point. Touche.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, I agree.
like
I think it's a good start, but I am a professor at EMU and I teach a class on law and the African American experience, and we've covered the general concept of reparations.
Yes.
Ta-Nehisi Coates, the case for reparations. I've made videos about it on my Robyn Legal. So we've discussed HR 40, and I believe there needs to be a study. I mean, we're well overdue for federal. I know you said this program that you mentioned, they don't want to give just cash, but I feel like it should be cash. It should be land. My 5th generation grandfather was a slave. So I feel on the federal level, I mean, if you study about Native American culture, my background is cultural anthropology, they talk about money that have been given to Native Americans. So I feel on the federal level, reparations are overdue. But what you're talking about, I would also obviously be supportive of that because most of my clients I represent, I do criminal, family, educational, juvenile. You just see when you come to Detroit, it's such a depressed environment, and it shouldn't be that way. I mean, we have so much potential, but it's
Mike Duggan wouldn't agree with you on that one, Robyn.
Well, I mean, where are you downtown? I'm talking about in the hood, in the neighborhood. You're going.
Well, I will tell you this, but I do when I come to Detroit because my family came to Detroit in 1890, and I have my roots here, and I spent a lot of time in Detroit, 1 or 2 days a week in the city myself, and I'll probably be in Detroit tomorrow for some things. But I do have to say that when I do people in Detroit, I take them throughout the city. There are glowing examples of revitalization. Okay, you can't say that there isn't. Okay, whether it's Livernois Corridor around 7 Mile Road, if you go on the east side of Detroit, most people when I talk about Detroit, you mean there are $1 million homes in the east side of Detroit? Yeah.
Absolutely.
They've been there for years. There are a lot of homes that are worth $300,000. They're been clean. I says, is it perfect? Is it equity? I says, no. But don't say that there aren't parts of Detroit revitalized. Okay, not just up there in Palmer Park. I'm thinking all over the city. And I look where I lived up in the different parts of the city. You do see things take regrowth. Okay, you got to remember the city of Detroit's bigger than almost a whole state of Rhode Island. Okay, it's a huge city. But that's why you have to remember. At one time, there were like 24 cities within the city of Detroit. Okay, when you look at the wards, how they originally were set up, you look at old maps. So like Houston brought in a lot of money from, Detroit brought all these communities together, but there wasn't the funds to keep it going. So you look at where the G plants are going, where you look where GM investing, those neighbors are beginning to spread out. Okay, you see the new housing developments going around. So to me, it's fact, I agree with Duggan somewhat. There is improvement. Is it going fast enough? People want? No. Okay. But the poll, I also did in this poll what people are concerned about. The number one issue outside of crime and drugs, which is always a problem, is the neighborhoods. Okay, they still don't think their neighborhoods need a lot of help.
24%.
Yep. And when you break that down,
yeah,
and then you break it down, what's in your neighborhood? It's basically vacant homes. It's litter. It's homes that are occupied but not kept up. Okay, and those are issues that they're concerned about. Remember, it's their personal life. Okay, because in the end, people says, if I grew up in Detroit and I like going back to Detroit, it's fact, grandparents say to live in the city, do my kids want to come and see me where I live?
Right. And the schools, like I've worked as an educational advocate and looked at some of the schools, the conditions they're just unacceptable. My boyfriend, we've stayed in the 48217 zip code.
Yep.
There's environmental issues going on.
Yes.
We're in my class, we've been covering Ben Crump's book, The Legalized Genocide of Colored People. And I'm in the book and they're talking about the most the worst environmental place in Michigan is a 48217. They've got the plants over there and people live there, children live there.
Well, that's what I'm saying is that we have to get a commitment to saying we as a whole in the city have to come together to get this done. Now, what I see happening in the city that may help that, whether it's good or bad, is there is a slow increase in white people moving back into the city in certain places. Okay, as I'm doing polling, I see more white voters showing up on lists, that type of thing.
Me too. Yeah, I find that interesting.
And so you're seeing that the trouble is many of the people that are moving into Detroit are living, but they claim they live outside the city because of taxes and auto insurance. Okay.
And auto insurance, yeah.
Yeah, we have to get them to commit that not only do they live here, but they live here.
Right.
The other thing that I think what I do when I bring people to the city, I look at some parts of the west side of Detroit that are very beautiful. I take them to some parts of the east side, the homes that I go and the other people are very nice. The other place I always take people, because people with kids, I take them to Children's Hospital. Okay.
Really?
Because when you look at that campus, how bad it is around that campus. You just go a few blocks away and it's terrible, okay? But if you come to that campus, how beautiful it is, that campus. And then you go inside this hospital, this over 100-year hospital, looks like it's a brand new hospital. Just showing when people have committed something, I've got people convinced to bring their kids to join because I didn't know this gem was here. I hear how good Children's Hospital, but I didn't know how safe it looks. We have to convince people there are places that is I would live here in the city.
Okay. Well, this is interesting, this poll that, the survey took place April 13th through the 15th.
And I think there's going to be an announcement pretty soon that they're going to be announcing their campaign.
Oh, really? So this, the survey though was actually co-sponsored by the Michigan Democratic Party Black
Caucus, yes.
Okay, that's fascinating. And
I also want to understand that the number of city council candidates have approached the people coming together, and they may adopt it as part of their campaign pledges, part of the people running for city council.
Oh, that's an excellent development because, when I studied the Evanston model, I see that the Evanston City Council actually formed a subcommittee, to take up this local reparations initiative. And so could we see something similar be adopted in Detroit?
I would say it's a good possibility. I know that there are conversations going on. Okay. I know the number of council candidates are interested, including some candidates running for mayor, okay, that are interested in this issue. So I would assume unless something changes.
Anthony Adams, does he embrace this issue?
I don't want to comment on Anthony Adams because I think that he's being led in the wrong direction.
Okay, we'll move on from that then.
That sounds like another show. How you gonna drop something if we can't even talk, please? Come on.
I know what you're talking about, so I'm gonna leave.
Tracy, shouldn't we enlighten folk? Like what?
No, because it would take me an hour to explain it.
Okay, fine. Y'all just dropping some stuff. Folks, stay tuned. We're gonna probably have to bring Anthony Adams back, okay? Then so he
can remember. I called you Robyn and Batwoman because I remember the same time they leave you hanging by your toes.
That's true. That's all the time we have now. We'll see next time.
In all fairness, we Chief Craig can come on here, Mayor Duggan. We've invited Mayor Duggan, the governor. So it's like people get it.
When I'm so disappointed, on is that even though I didn't get a chance to reach out to Chief Craig, and I'm sure he would come on Political Coffee, is that Charlie LaDuff, he beat us to the punch, with this big scoop about Chief Craig running for governor and as a Republican. So, well, kudos to Charlie LaDuff.
Well, Charlie, I will have to give credit to Charlie because remember, he's the one that got himself a job with the old Cobo Hall for counting ballots, absentee ballots, election night. So he was there.
Yeah,
So
I remember hearing about that.
yeah, so the point being, the fact is that he was the one that could tell you exactly what was true or wrong false. So, because Charlie's underneath very conservative in a lot of issues. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
And so the point being is, in fact, he went there intentionally because he's somewhat of a Trumpite in his own way on certain things. Okay. And but the point being, if he was there, are they cheating? Are they doing something? He was there. He was helping out the system. He knows whether that truck showed up with something and dropped something. He knows he was there at those hours. Okay. He was in charge of a division. Okay. So
he doesn't know everything, though. He doesn't.
I know, but I know that Attorney Taylor I would be remiss. He said that Charlie came out and interviewed him about the house where Ayanna Jones was
right.
Killed, and that there was some misinformation put out there by Mr. LaDuff. Which again, Mr. LaDuff is welcome to come on and talk about it.
But
remember, Charlie writes his own press releases and he writes his own show. Okay, so
yeah, he's got a great show, and incidentally, Robyn, that article that you speak of that ran in Mother Jones actually won an award. Charlie LaDuff won a major award for that, and actually, I was the one that set that whole thing up.
I know, I'm aware, and I'm not saying anything about you.
I will tell you this is the fact. Yes.
And Mr. Taylor constantly talks about some of the inaccuracies in that article, and I've invited Mr. Taylor to come on.
It up with Charlie LaDuff. Maybe
I have invited Mr. Taylor to
bullshit hour, and
I've invited Mr. Taylor to come on and clear up the discrepancies. So he is welcome to come on Political Coffee.
I think let me put it this way here. I've been on his show. I've been brutal on him. I've got his shirt. And he and I actually prayed on his show at the same time.
Oh, I gotta watch that back. Wow, really? You prayed?
Yes. Yeah, so the point being is he can take it. I threw punches at him. I've been kind to you, Robyn, and you, Tracey. I'm just kidding. But
listen, we're both lawyers.
I know we're lawyers, so we know we can be scrappy at times. But Ed, this has been great having you on. And while I've been here, I've been looking up because we're in real time and everything. Right. I've been looking up Chief Craig. I see he was born in Detroit, was in the U.S. Army, went to Cass Tech, and then it says he joined the Detroit Police Department in '77. It says he was here from 77 to 81, and then it says he went from Los Angeles to work for the LAPD for 3 decades. Then it says he went to 2009 to 2011. He was the chief of police for Portland Police Department in Portland, Maine. And then it says 2011 to 2013, he was chief of police for Cincinnati Police Department in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it says that the crime rate was the lowest when he was there since 2000. And so I think that's part of what the draw was to bring him here.
About that Cincinnati figure is that crime was reducing all across the country. And so some will say that he can't take full credit for the reduced crime rate in Cincinnati. But
I lived in Cincinnati for a while, and I want to say that there was some structural changes made in the city to help reduce the crime.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, before we, this is fascinating about the reparations. I do know that there are some national reparations groups that are going to be hitting the ground in June next month. One of them is in Cobra, and I'm just wondering if you think that the local reparations group that you're involved with I know it's different, but you think they might align together? My
suggestion would be not to align themselves because theirs is much more focused, specific to benefit. It can benefit everybody in the city where something happens. The greater reparations one may not benefit as many people as the local one can. Because
the greater one, if that's Mama Joanne Watson, really? Part of that. If they get reparations across the nation, that's like $50 million.
But the one is more relatively immediate. The other one is more long term.
Okay. Because
right now, because right now I want to focus on what I can get done right now.
Okay.
Because if I focus on, if you get lost with the long term, no, they cannot get tied to two different things. You have to focus on your message. We need something to happen today.
So
It's
the
like
answer
you're running
would
for
be
office.
no. You're not going to be hooking up with the national people who want this national reparations, federal reparations through HR 40.
Because then you have to defend it. Then you have to defend the
Right.
national thing. You don't want but you have to be. For example, when I'm running for office, every candidate wins because Joe Biden said what I'm going to do the first day in office. Okay.
He did.
Okay. Freeman
Right.
Hendricks lost because he didn't tell you what he was going to do the first day in office if he was going to be mayor. All he said, we got rid of Kwame Kilpatrick. He didn't say what he was going to do the first day in office. So
Okay.
you got anything in politics is what you're going to do the first day. Okay. Getting taught to the national one, that's what it's not what people need today. Right now, what's on top of people's mind, I don't have the money to pay my taxes because I was overcharged my taxes. You're going to help me
Right.
do something in my community. That's immediate, solves the immediate problem. It's immediate gratification, immediate help. Okay, that's what you need.
Well, I would say it's you're saying it's not what they need. They would benefit if you had cash reparations, land, not have to pay taxes, a free education, but it's just like you said, it's not something, there's too much resistance. It's not something that would just happen overnight.
Yes.
Right.
I think we still have to solve people's general perception. Remember, in our poll, not all Blacks supported reparations for people in the city.
No, I find that fascinating.
Which is why we need critical race theory throughout the nation. I mean, I don't know if you guys have probably heard the headlines of that case that was where there was a racist incident, and then they were talking about the need for critical race theory, and then they had somebody come in the school board and say they don't need critical race theory, and I'm just like, again, as a professor, I've taught Black, white, everybody needs, and a background in anthropology. You look at it from a world perspective, the more you know about other cultures, the better you're going to do as a nation. We're competing with other countries, but you go to Europe, people know 4 languages. I mean, here people barely know English. It's like, come on.
Well, the other thing that I find, and I want to be PC here if I can, a lot of times when I'm involved in community get-togethers, and I'm probably, pardon the expression, the only white person in the group. Some people say, well, that other person, they're not really Black because they don't know their history. They don't know what's going on here, why we feel the way we're feeling, which goes back to what you got to be taught. Like my concern was when I did the survey, did any people remember Black Bottom? Okay.
Okay, right. So did that come up? I mean, did that resonate? Did people, did it click on for them? Black Bottom.
Well, it's surprising enough, there was enough people because most voters in Detroit are relatively older. Okay.
Okay.
So there, 60% still supported the Black Bottom issue, not as high as 72, which was more closer to the other end for the tax issue. What I'm saying is there's still enough people remembering Black Bottom. So when I'm talking to Black people, the fact that a lot of times when I talk to younger Black people, I says, well, why is this all happening? I says, why did these people, white people, and I said, because I said Blacks in Detroit grew up voting for white people. Okay. They're used to vote. So I said, you got to understand your culture, your history. You don't know your history. Okay.
Right.
And I talked about this before. I said, when I grew up in Detroit, I thought everybody lived in Detroit, downtown Detroit, were from India or Pakistan. Because we had a lot of Pakistan Indian students back in the late 50s and 60s, and they all stayed downtown. So if I go downtown, it says, why are all these Indian people, Pakistan Indians living here? Okay, I thought that, I didn't understand it.
And that's a great segue to redistricting because, communities of interest, because redistricting is really heating up in the waning moments. So we have about 20 minutes. I know that the ICRC is going to independent, redistricting commission. Thank you. They're going to be holding a series of in-person town halls, if you will, here to get feedback from people about drawing these lines. And I know one of them will be in Lansing on May 27th, and 2 of them will be in Detroit on June 15th and June 17th, respectively. The one on June 15th will be at Wendell Anthony's Church Fellowship Chapel, and the one on the 17th will be at TCF Center. What is happening with redistricting in Michigan? We know that we're losing a congressional seat. So where is that seat going to be lost? What's happening?
Here's the problem with what they're doing, okay?
Okay, what?
This is all eyewash, okay? Until they put their rules together on how they're going to draw the lines.
All right.
All these community hearings. I did this. I've been doing redistricting since the early 80s. Okay.
Wow.
Okay,
Okay.
so I've been doing this, okay, and there's a possibility that I'll be, I haven't signed a contract, but I'll be doing redrawing of the Chicago's council districts, okay? There's a possibility.
Really?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
because I did them 10 years ago, okay? What I'm saying is, until they tell you how they're gonna draw the line, what rules are they gonna follow, they can't promise anything.
Right.
Okay, because if they do promise anything, they're going to be sued. For example, I doubt they're going to tell you in these meetings the fact that you're probably going to lose another Black Senate seat. I doubt they're going to tell you the fact you may lose 2 or 3 more Black representatives in the House of Representatives. I doubt they're going to tell you the fact is that they might not be able to keep 2 whole Black seats, 55%, 57% Black. They're not going to tell you that in that. Okay, they're not going to tell you when you're in Detroit the fact. Well, Grosse Pointe, the fact is Grosse Pointe says they're a community of interest. They don't want to be part of a Detroit district because they're interested. They want to be part of Macomb County seat. Well, they're going to tell the Grosse Pointe people, you can't be a community of interest because the fact otherwise we can't make a Black seat in Wayne County, so we're going to lose a seat. They're not going to tell you that.
Right.
Okay,
right.
so the approach that I've been asked is the fact I've been asked to work with a group of people in Detroit across the state, and I've talked about this before. That put out example plans of what the commission may be able might draw. There's no rocket science to this. There's no need a PhD to draw these lines. You just have to understand how the process works and how you follow the law. Okay, so the fact is, so like when I did Chicago stuff, I presented 6 or 7 plans, and then we showed which one was most likely to win in court, and that's how we ended up with the plan. Okay,
good analysis, right?
Okay. Secondly, the fact that when in the 2010 process, I drew more Black seats for the Black community than the Black Caucus did.
Wow, that's
okay. So what I'm saying is, I'm glad they're educating, but are they really going to say what the rules are, what the boundaries are? What are they going to be? No, they're not going to get into that because the fact they're going to, for example, remember, community of interest remember, to me, community of interest is the eye of the beholder. Okay, there is no commitment.
And it's a nebulous term.
For example, we say BLM, Black Lives Matter. Well, in Michigan, we need BRM, Black Representation Matters.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Okay, because there is no BRM. There's no BRM in Michigan. There's no one fighting to ensure that we don't lose Black state house districts. There's no fighting for state congressional districts. For example, because they gave it away 10 years ago. The Black Caucus gave it away so they could get their Senate seat. They didn't care about another Black seat. Okay, I look at Sylvia Santana. In order to create a seat, she has to occupy maybe Dearborn. Well, the Arab and people in Dearborn don't want a Black from Detroit in her district. She could lose her Senate seat. So she could be. We may lose Senate seat as a Black woman in the Senate. Okay, and what I'm saying. That's what has to. That's what I can talk about.
They have to be ready for next year.
Well, the point being, a lot of this stuff I could draw. It would take a couple of weeks. This all could be done in 2 weeks. This is not rocket science. Okay.
All right.
So my goal would be working with people after the fact. We need to put example plans. Okay, because they were going to decide what they're going to go with. Okay, and there's no saying that the fact that after they draw all these lines, they're going to find out that they'll be sued because they didn't follow the Voting Rights Act, or they didn't honor their commitment to interests, or they didn't keep the people of color, or they didn't follow precedent, which they've been doing for since 1980. They didn't follow traditional law in Michigan in drawing the lines. So which means the Republicans could actually sue them. It could go to the Supreme Court, or there's some conversation in the legislature, Republicans and Democrats to come together to draw the lines and then present it to the commission, because the commission is not going to be able to draw fair plans. Because the other thing is, they say they're apolitical. Remember, this is supposed to take politicians out of politics?
Right.
No, all this was Democrat versus Republicans. They want to take Republicans out drawing the lines. You cannot have a fair plan unless you have partisan data, okay? Because how are you going to say this plan is fair if you don't know which district is how much Republican or how Democratic it is?
Okay, is there anything that can be done? My assistant worked with the census, and I'm sure you heard the reports. They said that the census, they did not count everybody in Wayne County. They were sure to count everybody in Oakland County. Is there anything that can be done now? Can the Biden administration reopen the census so that
here's the problem. The fact is, I was telling them last year, where's their lawsuits? Where is their separate recount? Where's their things under Coleman Young? We had dual censuses going on. Okay. When I worked with Native American tribes in California and out west, they did their own census, and the Census Bureau ended up using their numbers versus the Census Bureau used their numbers to ensure that they're proper counted. So this is what I'm saying is that there was we had very little leadership under Snyder to be sure that everybody was counted in Michigan. There was not money set aside. There was not staff put aside to be sure. For example, what's your lawsuit factor? Are you, for example, in California, LA, if you've been out there, they hire the gangs because the gangs have respect in all the communities and they cut a deal with the There's no crime. You trust me, I trust you. Detroit used to do that. Yeah, Detroit used to do that too. But the point being is, there was no reason why Wayne County is not 100% counted, because if the county exec and the mayor of Detroit and all the communities got together, they could have got the funds necessary and basically challenged the census numbers from day one over a year ago.
Yeah, well, that's a lack of leadership. I mean, especially when you have a so-called Democrat in power in Michigan.
Well, in 1990,
and also in Michigan.
Well, there's no voice because everybody who knows what's going on is retired or is no longer working in the legislature in the cities. Okay. In 1990.
I'm talking about the people at the top, Ed. If you have the mayor of a major city in the form of Duggan, and you have a Democratic governor, I mean, where was the leadership then? And making
they never because that's not something that's not their bailiwick. They don't know anything about it. They don't know how all this is done. In 1990, when I got a copy of the Census Bureau form going out, I was at a conference and I went and reminded them and said, you had no questions about African American or Black on your census form. I took the time to read everything.
Okay. Well, I mean, in concept, the whole voters, not politicians movement that resulted in the Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission.
That was partisan politics.
Okay, to prevent gerrymandering. But now it seems a little messy because, yes, you do have this nebulous term, communities of interest. And, what I find interesting is I didn't realize that in Kent County, there is this large Latino population. It's growing every day, and they want to make sure that they get, tagged as a community of interest, so that they have.
I've dealt with that, and I dealt that.
Representation.
I've been dealing with the Hispanic community since 1986 in Grand Rapids. I helped draw lines there. I dealt with the Hispanic community in Chicago. Okay.
Okay.
And in Kentwood, we basically formed joint committees where Hispanics and Blacks came together and agreed on a common district if they couldn't make one majority or the other. At least they were whole. Okay. In 1990, we worked with the Hispanic community to work together on drawing lines in Detroit for them to represent the Hispanic community. The difficulty is both sides have to know what the law is. In Chicago, the Hispanics were out spending the Black community on lawyers and everything. Well, luckily for me, I brought in and showed them the fact what Hispanics was trying to do to them, and the Black people were able to protect their seats and not lose any, and gave the Hispanics what they wanted. But the point being is, there is no cover. The largest community of interest is the Black population. Second is the Hispanics in certain areas.
Okay. Well, it depends on the area.
Yeah. So bottom line, that means you can't do what Grosse Pointe wants. You can't do to keep a certain city whole. If you want to do that, you can't do what they're saying. They can't. For example, if you talk to the people in the UP, their Traverse City belongs to them. If you talk below the bridge, Traverse City belongs to them. If you talk to Traverse City, we don't need anybody. We're our own community of interest. Right. And secondly, you still haven't told me how are you going to draw fair plans if you don't know what the partisan makeup of a district is?
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to do it either.
Well, in the end, unless someone I know their vendors, so their vendors are very, very partisan. They're very democratic, so I know who their vendors are. Very good. Republicans hire them too. They're very good. Okay, but the point being, in the end, a partisan data will be used to evaluate these plans.
Because there's no choice.
There's no choice. So in this committee, what are they going to tell you if you go to this meeting? Well, how are you going to draw a politically fair plan? How do you know if the districts you're drawing are all Republican or all Democrat? I don't know. Well, without political data, how are you going to do that?
Right. And, speaking of another group, the what they call Bangalatown and Hamtramck, they want to make sure that they get their representation. That's a huge population there. So, they want to be considered a community of interest as well.
What you're saying, these are not based on political boundaries. They're all based on social, ethnic, or racial boundaries.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the reason why in Chicago they drew a Hispanic seat that was only that looked like two barbells with a barbell between the city, using the city sewer pipe to connect two parts of the city to make one district.
Wow, that's fascinating.
What I'm saying is that in the end, they opened up a can of worms. Okay.
Yep.
In the end, a special commission be formed to solve this commission's problem. What I'm saying, another commission be formed to take over the job from this commission.
Right.
With a special master, because both of you are attorneys. Okay. both of you are attorneys. If they can't come to terms and there's a lawsuit and the judge says, well, how many Democratic seats in congressional districts? I can draw 8 Democratic seats or I can draw 8 Republican seats. I can draw them neutral. Okay, if I do the community of interest thing, there's more Democrat seats than the Republicans. Republicans will sue on that plan. Well, how the commission going to know that they just drew an illegal plan that they claimed they weren't going to do? Remember, taking politicians out of politics was Democrats didn't want the Republicans controlling the pen to draw all Republican seats. Let's be real here.
Right. So, I mean, do you recommend that people go to these
Yes,
meetings?
I do.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do is say, what do we need to do after these hearings?
Okay.
There has to be more education, understand what is the reality check that they weren't able to share with you or can't or won't be able to share in these meetings. Because if I'm doing meetings introduction, my job is just to listen. Okay?
Right.
I wouldn't do a lot of explaining what you're going to be doing, how you can do it, because the fact you can't commit to those things. Out of fairness to them, you do the listening tour. You don't make commitments because you can't appease everybody. Okay. When I was drawing, when we were, for example, a lot of the things that you're talking about in Hampshire, that might be better dealt with at a county commissioner level, protecting that might be helped better. Maybe at some point, maybe a state rep level, never a state senate, but maybe a state rep seat might be able to help them, but more like a county commissioner district. Okay. But that's not really covered by this commission. So, I mean, you can handle all these cases, but how are you going to handle it? Okay.
Right.
So for example,
Go ahead. No, I just wanted to get out there in our waning moments that, if anybody wants to find out more about these local meetings, they can go to www.michigan.gov/MICRC. I am going to go and
I
people
think, Tracey, did you go to one of the meetings already? I thought.
Well, I'm connected with Voters Not Politicians, so I go to these meetings online to get practice drawing the district lines. But these are in-person meetings that are happening Tuesdays and Thursdays. There's going to be one in Lansing on May 27th this month, and in Detroit on June 15th and June 17th. The one on the 15th is going to be at Fellowship Chapel on the west side of Detroit. That's Reverend Wendell Anthony's church. And then on June 17th at the TCF Center in downtown Detroit. And if you want to comment, if you want to participate virtually, you may do that. You don't have to be there in person, but you've got to sign up. You've got to go to www.michigan.gov/MICRC to get your name on there so you can make public comment. I encourage you.
Yeah, Tracey, you can share that. We can put that on the YouTube link.
See, what I'm trying to do here, the fact is that because I'm not going to be working for anybody when I do this. This is going to be part of my free time. Is draw example plans, okay? Because I have my own hardware and software. I've been doing this for almost over 30 years, okay? So I do all that kind of stuff. So my goal is the fact I'm not going to draw one map. I'm going to draw multiple maps. This is how the different choices that the commission can make, okay? Because that's what I did in 2010, showing like, hey, the Black Caucus is cutting out 4 black seats. Well, why did they do that? They could have had more seats. Well, why did they eliminate this? Why did they eliminate John Connor's congressional district? Because one of the state senators want to run in that congressional seat. So they moved Connors out of his own congressional district. Okay, that all happens. Yeah. Okay, that all happens. Or I'm in Detroit and says, well, I want my girlfriend in the district. I want my ex-wife in the district. I want a hospital in the district. So you got remember this all goes on in conversations. And drawing the line. So this commission. That's why I'm saying is the best thing for this commission is do the education, what they're all about, what they're going to do. But they can't, if they can't make too many commitments, okay? Because you already had them coming out, even Bengal Thompson's article, well, we're going to protect voting rights. Well, you said you're going to community of interest. Well, you can't do Crow's Point of community interest and the Black community interest because then you can't do the one versus the other. How are you going to do both?
Right.
You're going to have to prioritize what's your top community of interest. Is going to be people of color. Then that comes first, and you have to tell Crow's Point we can't do what you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay? You don't want to do that in a public meeting before you're behind doors drawing the lines.
Right. Wow.
We already know that cities are already negotiating with people they think are on the commission. They're saying we don't want Dearborn in this, we don't want Ecorse in this, and we don't want this district, or in Kent County they want this. They're already negotiating. They're already getting their lobbyist groups to infiltrate these groups of people. Okay.
Why am I not surprised by that? Why am I not?
Neither am I, because the fact is I'm getting these calls. I'm saying as well, then you've got 100 different communities in the city of Detroit. Who's going to win? Which community are you going to honor?
Right. Well, Ed, we're going to have you come back to talk. We can do a
Sure,
whole
this
show
has definitely been an
on
education.
Redistricting, and I wish you the best of luck, with the local reparations and the whole process for, getting it on the ballot. It does seem as if, based on the findings of your survey, there is support for it. And that just fascinates me about local reparations. I am reading a book by Professor Darity called From Here to Equality about national reparations, but I find the idea of reparations fascinating as well. And we're so glad that the audience joined us today for Politico Coffee with Ed SARPOLUS. And there's a lot happening this weekend. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. It's Mother's Day weekend.
Well, if you've got pets or you got children, happy Mother's Day. Whatever you're claiming as your children.
I'm a fur mom and a, mom of Amber. Shout out to Amber.
Another mother to my nephew. Shout out to my
That's
nephew
good.
Corbin. Yeah, he's a student at Wayne State. So
Yes.
Well, that's good. Well, that is good. I was in the other store the other day, and this one lady got like 4 bouquets of flowers. It says from the one person. I says, well, why? Which mom is you are from? It was kind of funny. People trying to reward this stuff. Yes. Oh, no. To me, it's important to reward womanhood, that type of thing. The funny thing is that it's Mother's Day. Okay, that'll be an interesting thing. How this reviewed. I did a poll nationwide on Mother's Day.
You did.
I did.
Okay.
It was years back. It's interesting to hear comments what people think of their mother-in-laws. That's the funny thing.
Oh, wow.
that sounds like that might be another show.
That is another show. Wow. Well, there's so much to watch, with Chief Craig running for governor. Oh, I also heard that Atlanta Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms not going to seek re-election for mayor.
I saw
What's
that
her
this
next
morning.
move?
Yeah. What, is she going to get a job in the Biden administration? Like, what's going on?
Oh, yeah.
Well, here's something else for you here's something you want to show the fact is, what is Warren Evans' future? Okay.
Okay.
Is his fine wife going to say it's time to depart? Or is it time to stay on? I know that there's some significant people already talking about running for county exec.
Really?
Yeah. So there'll be a good Warren Evans thing. What is he willing to commit that he's going to run for another term or not, or is he going to hint or start whatever type of stuff? There's a long-term possibility. We hear that Debbie Stabenow might be stepping down before the end of her term.
Yeah.
And she's.
I heard that.
And
I heard that. And Debbie Dingell might
supposedly is already lobbying to get that position.
I heard that she might be appointed. And, as to the issue of redistricting, I heard that Monroe County might go into her district and District 12. Because,
well, I will guarantee you the Republicans would not want that to happen, and Debbie Dingell would not want it to happen.
Really?
Yes.
Can you tell us why?
Why? Because even Congressman Congressman John Dingell did not want Monroe in his district anymore.
But he did have it at one time.
At one time, it was very moderate and was willing to vote for Bill Clinton.
Okay, I see there. Right, gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why you're hearing this story about Monroe going to Dingell, because whoever's telling this, in fact, that's one way to get rid of Wahlberg, because he needs that county to make it a Republican district.
Tim Wahlberg, right?
Yeah. That's why you're hearing this push for Monroe. Debbie Dingell would not want Monroe County. She will say she'll take whatever, but no, Debbie Dingell. If I was Debbie Dingell, I'd be lobbying against it. Okay.
Interesting. Oh,
yeah. So anybody who's telling Monroe, is everybody saying push Monroe into Debbie Dingell's district? That's lobbying the fact that they want to try to get rid of not Mark Wahlberg.
Tim Wahlberg.
Tim Wahlberg. Yeah, I'm talking about right. Yeah. Just remember that. Yeah, it's hamburger, Wahlberg burgers.
Right. I am. They're pretty good. I still eat meat. I'm a flexitarian, so
that's okay. But just remember, when you hear Monroe County go Debbie Dingell, that's someone have a strategy. The fact, how can they get rid of Wahlberg's district so they can get that as a Democratic seat?
Fascinating.
That's why you are hearing that. But that would be lobbying, and that would be against the commission's purpose of drawing the lines, keeping politics out of redistricting. The movement of that district into that county and that would be against the commission's rules, because then we're making a move for political purposes. So I could sue on that. But I could sue on that.
You could sue on that, right?
Because under redistricting, you can subpoena verbal communication, not just written testimony. You can sue if you look at old cases. What was said in the meeting? Remember the case in the census? Remember when Ben Ginsburg was saying this person said this? In redistricting, you don't have to say it in writing, but if you had a conversation it would be helpful if Wahlberg's seat was put over here because it would help us win that seat. That was an exchange of information to influence the plan.
Wow. Wow.
So if I was hearing that, no, I would say
Yeah.
they're doing it for one purpose and one purpose of law, because I can draw a better plan leaving Monroe County where it is.
Well, I'm definitely hearing that. And Ed, you have got to grace us with coming back, with more of your fascinating insights and expertise. I always love talking with you, and I could talk with you for hours.
I enjoy your questions and your input. No, because to me, my mom told me always be a sponge. You absorb other people's thoughts and mentality and issues because they're always more intelligent than you. And my job is to squeeze it back out to you.
Wow.
Well, everybody, as a professor, I would say everybody's intelligent. It's just a matter of knowledge, gaining knowledge. Like, you're definitely schooling us on some things that we don't typically hear about.
No, like I said, you got to be a sponge and you just squeeze
Right.
it back out. And the other thing I tell people, don't become an expert, become a noted authority. So you understand more than just one thing.
Exactly. Wow.
Well, folks, this has been Political Coffee with Robyn and Tracey and our special, wonderful guest, Ed SARPOLUS. And this has been a very engaging and enlightening conversation. So check us out, like us, subscribe. We're going to be on YouTube, Facebook, eventually Instagram, and also we'll be on Twitter. We're actually on Twitter right now, you guys. That's what, if you've been seeing me do some stuff, I've set it up for, we're on our Political Coffee Facebook page, the Twitter, and we're on the YouTube right now. So
you're already picking up Trump's base then, I understand.
What? Oh my gosh, I didn't say that. Okay, I'm gonna have to say. Well, we're open to everybody, but you don't forget, I am a card-carrying Democrat. Okay,
Be a sponge. Be a sponge.
Be a sponge. I know my dad.
Watch out for the space junk, the Chinese death rocket.
Okay, I know. What the hell? Like, whatever. Just go hide in the basement for the next couple of days.
That's true.
Okay, see you later. Thanks, you guys.
Ed. Thanks,
bye.